My name's Kashif. I'm 29, and I've always been the responsible one in my family, which, in my case, is just a nice way of saying the one who quietly foots the bills while everyone else pretends it's normal. I work in tech, make a decent living, and ever since I landed my first real job, my parents have somehow come to believe that I should give back to the family, not in an emotional sense, but financially. It started small, helping with groceries, chipping in for my younger brother's tuition, covering emergency plumbing bills when our old house started showing its age. At first, I didn't mind. I told myself I was just helping them stay afloat. But over the years, what started as generosity turned into silent expectation. And when I say silent, I mean no thank you cards, no warm hugs, no appreciation, just cold assumptions. They stopped asking altogether. It was just assumed I'd pay. This past year, I covered their mortgage. That wasn't the plan, at least not at the start. My dad had some investment issues, which I later learned involved crypto and a shady golf buddy named Terry, and the bank was about to foreclose. My mom called me one night in February, crying and saying they'd be out on the street. She didn't ask if I could help. She just said, "We're counting on you." And just like that, I did it. $2, $300 a month every month. Auto-paid from my account. I never brought it up, never used it as leverage, never expected anything back. I just thought, if I help now, maybe things will settle. Maybe they'll see I care. Maybe this will be the year I actually feel like part of the family again. Which brings us to Christmas. I'd spent the last week wrapping presents for everyone, thoughtful ones. My brother Aiden, who's 26 and still figuring things out, was getting a new graphics card for his PC. My mom was getting the expensive face cream she always says is too fancy to buy. My dad, a signed vintage baseball from a game he always talked about watching as a kid. I even got gifts for my aunt and uncle, who were hosting the dinner this year. I drove 3 hours to get there with everything in the trunk, dressed up, optimistic for once. Maybe this year would be different. It wasn't. Dinner was already in full swing when I arrived. No one greeted me at the door. No one helped with the bags. My aunt waved from across the kitchen while pouring wine. I placed the wrapped presents under the tree and joined them in the dining room. There were 14 people at the table. 14 plates, but not 15. My chair wasn't set. "Oh," my aunt said casually when I pointed it out, "we didn't know if you'd come, you've been distant." She smiled like she was making a joke, but her tone had the sting of something deeper. I looked to my mom, who gave a tight-lipped shrug. My dad was already carving the ham. My brother smirked. But hey, thanks for covering the mortgage this year, man. Real Christmas spirit right there. Everyone laughed like it was hilarious, like it was something to be proud of. My stomach twisted, but I smiled and nodded. I didn't want to cause a scene. I sat down in the extra folding chair someone eventually brought in from the hallway. It creaked every time I shifted, and my plate, it wasn't even real. Just a flimsy plastic one from the stack near the sink. "There's extra ham in the garage fridge." And my aunt said over her shoulder, "Grab some if you're hungry." No one passed me anything. No one poured me wine. It was like I wasn't really there. Like I was just the guy who paid for everything, not someone worth celebrating. I looked at the pile of gifts under the tree, all of them from me. Not a single one had my name on it. Not even a card. At one point, my mom leaned over and said, "Owen, we didn't get you anything this year. You've just been so distant, we didn't know what you'd want." I almost laughed. I wanted to scream. But instead, I just nodded again, excused myself to the bathroom, and sat on the edge of the tub for 10 minutes, staring at the tiled floor and trying not to cry. I kept telling myself I was overreacting. That maybe they just forgot, that maybe they didn't mean to hurt me, but deep down I knew. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they didn't care. I left without saying goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a speech. I just walked out into the cold night, got into my car, and sat in the driveway with the engine running, and then I opened my banking app. I had control of all the shared family cards. I was the guarantor on the gas card, the grocery card, and the emergency MX they only used when necessary, which, based on the $400 Applebee's charge last month, was clearly a lie. I also had the ability to freeze them. Instantly, I stared at the screen for a moment, hesitating. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about the fact that I'd let them take pieces of me for years. Time, energy, dignity, and they never once saw it as love. Just obligation, and I was done being the silent ATM. I froze every card. Then I revoked access to the shared car. A 2019 Toyota that was technically in my name because my parents' credit was wrecked. I had a tracker installed. I disabled the key remotely at 10:39 p.m. My dad called me twice. I didn't answer. At 10:58, my mom texted me, "Why can't we fill gas?" And at 11:03 p.m., something arrived that changed everything. It was a screenshot. I'd sent it from an alternate email address I'd set up months ago, just in case I ever needed a paper trail. It showed every monthly mortgage payment I'd made on their behalf that year, 12 transactions, neatly labeled, totaling nearly $28,000. Below it was an attached PDF, the loan agreement they'd signed with me in February, which they apparently forgot I'd notarized. Their signatures side by side, promising to reimburse me upon financial stability or within 1 calendar year, whichever came first. And underneath all that, a single sentence I typed out before hitting send. "You've got 5 days to make this right," where the next email goes to the bank and to Aunt Carol's lawyer, who I hear is very good at civil claims. It was petty. It was cold, but it was also necessary. For years, they'd leaned on me like I was furniture, sturdy, silent, and expected to hold the weight of everyone's mistakes, and I'd let them. But sitting alone in my apartment that night, with the wrapped gift still in the trunk of my car, untouched and unappreciated, something in me cracked. I realized I wasn't just upset about Christmas. I was mourning the fantasy of having a family that actually saw me. They didn't call again that night, but I watched the read receipts pop up one by one. The next morning, I started getting texts, not from my parents, but from Aiden, my brother. "Dude, what did you do? Mom's freaking out. You can't just cut everyone off because of a bad dinner." A bad dinner? That's what he called it, as if years of being used and dismissed could be boiled down to a single awkward meal. At noon, my dad finally messaged me, "Owen, let's be adults, come by and we'll talk." But I wasn't interested in talking. I wanted actions. For once in my life, I wanted them to feel what I'd felt for years. Invisible, used, disposable. Over the next 48 hours, the fallout spread like wildfire. The car was stuck in the driveway, unable to start. My dad had to call an Uber to get to work for the first time in his life. The grocery card got declined when my mom tried to buy dog food. Aiden couldn't get gas and called me 4 times in a row, swearing in voicemails and blaming me for ruining Christmas. On the second day, I got a call from my aunt, the same one who gave me the plastic plate and told me the ham was in the garage. "Sweetheart," she began in her fake syrup voice, "I just wanted to check on you. I heard there was tension." Tension, I said. "You mean when you gave me a seat with no place setting and told me to go dig through the garage fridge like a stray?" She coughed, clearly caught off guard. "Well, I didn't mean it like that. You've been distant. We didn't want to overwhelm you. You didn't want to include me," I said plainly. "There's a difference." There was a pause. Then, "Look, can't we just move past this? It's the holidays." I didn't respond, just ended the call. I wasn't interested in surface-level apologies. I didn't want another round of excuses or carefully worded half-truths. I wanted to see if any of them would take real accountability, if they'd do anything to show that I mattered beyond my wallet. They didn't. On the third night, I sat at my desk and stared at the bank login for the mortgage. The due date for January was coming. The auto payment was still turned off. I hovered over the Notify Lender of Payment Issues button. My finger itched to click it, not because I wanted to destroy them financially, but because for once I wanted the power to be mine. That's when I heard a knock at my door. It was nearly midnight. Snow was falling outside. I hesitated, then got up and checked the peephole. It was my mother. She stood there, bundled in her old navy coat, hair slightly damp, clutching something in her arms. Her eyes were puffy. I opened the door. Not wide, just enough to see her clearly. "Owen," she said quietly, voice trembling, "please, can we talk?" I stared at her, and then I saw what she was holding. Wrapped in torn gift paper, likely pulled from the pile under the tree, was the baseball I had bought for Dad. It wasn't even wrapped properly, just crumpled and half covered in tape. The card I had written, the one that said thanks for all the games we used to watch, hope this brings back a good one, had been scratched out. She held it out like a peace offering. "We didn't realize," she said. "We thought you were just being cold. We didn't see." Her voice broke. "I didn't take the gift. I didn't say anything." She added, "Your dad's too proud to say it, but we need you, not for money, just. Please don't do this." I looked at her. Really looked. For the first time in a long time, I saw past the manipulation, the deflections, the guilt trips. I saw the woman who raised me, the woman who also stood by while I was used, the woman who never once intervened. And I asked her a question I never thought I'd say aloud. Do you even like me, or do you just like what I can give you? She froze, and in that silence, everything changed. She blinked, her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The snow kept falling behind her soft, quiet, unbothered. I could see the way her fingers tightened around the half-wrapped baseball, like she suddenly didn't know what to do with it. Like she'd rehearsed a dozen different conversations on the way here, but not this one. Not a question that sharp, that real eye. She started, then looked down. Of course I like you. You're my son. That's not what I asked. I said. My voice wasn't angry, just tired. You say you love me when you need help, but do you like me when I'm not useful? She didn't answer right away. She stared at the baseball, then at the floor, then back at me. When did things get so complicated? She whispered, they were always complicated. I said, you just didn't notice, or maybe you didn't care to. She finally looked up. That's not fair. No, I said. What's not fair is pretending like I'm part of the family only when the bills are due. What's not fair is being punished for having boundaries, for being distant after years of being used. You've all been feeding off me like I'm some kind of machine. And the second I stop, this happens. She flinched. I came to Christmas. I continued. I brought gifts. I brought myself. And no one even saved me a plate. Aiden laughed about the mortgage. You handed me a plastic plate and sent me to the garage like a stray dog, and I still didn't say anything. I left quietly, and now suddenly you all want to talk. My mom was crying now. But quietly, not the loud guilt trip crying she usually used when she wanted to shift blame. This was different, raw, confused. She looked like she didn't know whether to beg or just collapse. I softened just a little. I wanted so badly to believe I mattered to you, I said. But this year made it impossible. I finally let myself see the truth, that none of you actually know me. You don't ask about my life. You don't check in unless something breaks. And now, for the first time, I stopped bending, and you're all acting like I set the house on fire. She took a slow breath. We didn't mean to make you feel that way, but you did, I said. And the worst part, I think you've known for a while. You just hoped I'd keep swallowing it. A long silence followed. She didn't try to defend herself anymore. She just stood there, holding that baseball like it meant something again. I didn't come here to fix things, she finally said, voice quiet. I came here because I don't know what else to do. Your dad's angry, Aiden's ranting, and I feel like everything's breaking. It's been broken. I said, you just didn't notice until the money stopped. She wiped her cheek. So, what happens now? I leaned against the doorframe. The question had been circling my head for days. What happens now? What did I want? Was I going to cut them off forever, force them to pay, walk away completely? I didn't know yet, but I knew they needed to feel it. Really feel it. The silence, the absence, the loss of comfort they never earned. I wasn't ready to forgive. I wasn't even sure I wanted to forgive. Not yet, not without proof that things could change. That I wasn't just an account number and a convenience. I don't know. I said honestly, but for once, I'm not going to be the one to fix it. Her shoulders slumped. I added, you want me back in the family, then the family needs to show up. Not just with words, with action, and not because I froze the cards, but because you miss me. She gave a small nod. Then hesitantly, she held the baseball out again. I didn't take it, keep it. I said, he doesn't deserve it, not yet. And then I closed the door, not hard, just firm. Behind it, I heard her take a step back, then another. The sound of her boots crunching the snow slowly faded. I waited, heart pounding, until her car pulled away. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down at my table. The room was quiet, peaceful even. For the first time in years, I felt like I was back in control. But I also knew this wasn't over, not even close, because the next morning before sunrise, I got a call from Aiden, and what he told me made my blood run cold. I stared at my phone, the screen glowing in the early morning dark. Aiden's name was flashing on the caller ID. I almost didn't pick up. After everything, the last person I wanted to hear from was my brother, especially since his last texts were all about how I had ruined Christmas. But something in my gut told me to answer. Maybe I just needed closure. Hello, I said, voice still rough with sleep. Aiden didn't waste time. Dude, you need to get over here now. What are you talking about? I asked. He sounded out of breath. Scattered, not angry like before. Panicked. Dad's losing it. He called a locksmith to break into your car. Says you had no right to shut us out. He's yelling about suing you for financial abuse or something. I sat up straight. He what? He's drunk, Aiden said quickly. Been drinking since like 4:00 a.m. Mom's trying to calm him down, but he already called the towing company to get the car hauled somewhere. He's saying crazy stuff like selling it or reporting it stolen. The blood drained from my face. The car was mine, in my name, registered and insured by me, but it had been sitting in their driveway for months because they used it like their own. I'd turned off the GPS and remote access a few days ago, but I hadn't moved it yet. That was my mistake. I'm on my way, I said, grabbing my keys. No, wait, Aiden said. There's more. I paused. More. He lowered his voice. I saw the messages on Mom's phone. She's been talking to Aunt Carol about power of attorney. They're trying to get it switched from you to Dad. Said it's dangerous for you to be in control of their finances, that you're being unstable. My heart dropped. They were trying to flip the script, paint me as the villain, discredit me. Make it look like I was the unreasonable one, the controlling one, the ungrateful child who lashed out without warning, instead of the son who spent years silently supporting them while they smiled through it and pretended it was owed. I gotta go, I said and hung up. I wasn't going over there to argue. I was going to protect what was mine, and to deliver the final blow I'd been preparing for since Christmas night. 15 minutes later, I pulled up to the house. The sky was still gray with early dawn. The driveway was full Aiden's car, my old Camry, my parents' rusty Honda, and a white tow truck idling at the curb. Two men stood near the Camry with a metal lift already positioned. My dad stood on the porch in a robe, arms crossed, red-eyed and flushed. I parked across the street and walked over calmly. As soon as my dad saw me, he stormed down the steps. Owen, he barked. What do you think you're doing? You freeze our cards, block the car, then act like we're supposed to sit and take it. You were supposed to sit and take it, I said quietly. You've taken everything else, the tow guy interrupted. Hey man, we were told this vehicle was part of a family loan. That true? No, I said. That car is in my name, title and registration. I pulled the documents from my coat pocket. I have full legal ownership. The guy squinted at them, then back at me. You want us to stop immediately, I said, and I'd like you to make a note that the request to tow it was made by someone with no ownership stake. My dad's face turned beet red. You're playing a dangerous game, he growled. You think freezing us out makes you the good guy? No, I said, but it makes me free. At that moment, the front door opened and my mom appeared, looking exhausted. Owen, please, she began. Let's not do this in front of the neighbors. I ignored her and turned back to my dad. I'm done being your bank account, I said. I'm done being your backup plan, your scapegoat, your crutch. You wanted to treat me like an outsider. Fine, I'm out. You think you're better than us? He spat. No, I said. I think I'm finally starting to respect myself. I turned to walk away, but paused. Oh, one more thing about that loan. My dad narrowed his eyes. I gave you a year to pay it back, I said. You signed for it, you had it notarized, and you've ignored every deadline. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope. This is the formal notice, I said. I've contacted a lawyer. You've got 30 days before I file for breach of contract. If you don't pay or sell the house to cover it, we're going to court. My mom gasped. My dad lunged toward me, but one of the tow guys stepped in between us. I gave you everything, I added, time, money, love, and you gave me a folding chair and a plastic plate. Then I walked back to my car. I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were brutal, not for me, but for them. The lawyer sent the formal demand. Aiden tried to mediate, but I told him, no deals, no compromises. They could sell the boat they never used, sell the antique furniture they inherited, sell their pride if they had to. But they were going to pay. In February they caved. The house went on the market. Quietly, privately. My dad wouldn't admit it, but the mortgage and late fees were crushing them. I gave them a payment plan to avoid court, but it was strict. Every dollar was accounted for. They moved into a small rental across town. The shared car, I sold it, bought myself a better one, in cash. The family group chat, dead. My mom sent a few emails over the spring, carefully worded apologies that danced around the truth. Aiden still checks in, but we keep it surface level. My aunt, she called once, saying she didn't realize how bad things were. I told her I was tired of people realizing things only after the damage was done. In Christmas, I spent it with friends, real ones, people who actually saw me. I didn't buy a single gift out of obligation. I didn't sit in a cold chair with a plastic plate. I laughed, I ate, I felt warm. Seen safe, and that night, as I sat by the fireplace watching the snow fall outside, I realized something. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the most powerful thing you can do, and for the first time in my life, I didn't miss them, not even a little.